Hey Dina, let's take a look at your week 5 assignment 2. Try to get through this quickly because I'm assuming you've probably already started something already. I like the value studies a lot, actually. I think you done a nice job of getting the scene to work, I think, in the way that you wanted it to work originally. There's nice shadow in place. I think the environment is set up well. I actually like the guy down below here, which I think he's kind of funny. And sorry. And I think that the scene sets up well. I think that you've got a lot of texture to have to deal with, but I think you actually have kind of a nice fur texture going on in the bottom right one. And I think that the scene, for me at least, I think I like it more when you have the tree next to the hunter's little shack rather than it being out in the open field. I think you may be overdoing the mark making on this. I think, just going in with a solid color, lighter valued color, but still a solid color, would work just as well as having kind of this mixture in place. I would actually just kind of take a look at pictures that you have of scenes like this, of forest scenes, and then just try to simplify them as best you can. One of the easier ways to do it, I think, is sometimes it's easier to use the programs even for silly things like figuring out how to deal with overly complex situations, which I think forests really qualify for. I think when people think about having to draw all the leaves or all the grass, think about using like the blur filter, and what this does is it keeps you from worrying about all these tiny little details, and what you see is it really ends up just being a little bit of some color changes. You've got spots of green, spots of yellow. There's other filters that actually work just as well, where it's just going to clump a lot of the colors together. But I think this is kind of the approach that you're going to have to take. I think one of the things that people run into when they do landscapes a lot of the time is dealing with all the minutia and figuring out a way so that it reads as what you think it is, but it isn't really. You're not drawing each individual blade of grass, but you're kind of simplifying it, but you can't let the viewer kind of figure that out in a way. So I think one of the things that always helps in drawing is to blur your eyes and really kind of generalize values a little bit, and that also kind of works for overly detailed environments. I will say that some of the stuff that's going on in the background I think looks really good. I think the grass and the brush that's back there feel very good. I think it could get a little denser here, because you're seeing a lot of that mark making, that you're making behind it. But I actually think I actually think it works out pretty effectively in the back. I'm not sure like the bush works quite as well, and again, I think you just have to kind of go in and simplify, and usually creating kind of the brush shape with the marker, just kind of in a general way, and then going in and shading it very kind of loosely tends to create more of what you kind of want out of a bush, instead of trying again to draw individual leaves and individual twigs. But I think you have a good idea already. You've got some lighting situations set up. I think you need to make more apparent that the buck is actually shooting through the the shack. But I think that having the buck in the foreground is kind of this creepy, although neat little detail. I think this guy is realized fairly well, and I like all the little kind of sneaky deer that are around the environment, which kind of adds to the level of interest of the scene. The color also looks very good. So I think just keep plugging away at it and see how it goes.